I like to think that when I go into these text and picture and video reviews that I know a little bit of the subject matter. I like having my trivia all neat, clean, my ducks all lined up in a row. The names of things, where they come from, the materials that they're made of, the company that manufactured them, the name of the series and or movie that they came from, special events that happened on video that are not reflected in the toy, features in the toy that are not reflected in the series or the movie. You know, I've even reviewed a couple of things that didn't appear on screen. You know, there were some that came from books or comic books or, you know, whatever. Web programming, things I've reviewed that had it wasn't a TV series or a movie, but Legos, for example, you know, but had a continuity to it. So I like to know the trivia. It might not be something that everybody wants, but for me, it provides a little bit of flavor, a little bit of texture to what I'm reviewing. It's not just it's a slab of plastic and it does this and it does that and there's your review. No, 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 no. I'm definitely a toy connoisseur, so texture and flavoring are definitely issues with me. So very rarely is there an occasion where I go and purchase a toy blindly. It doesn't happen very often. And even then, once I've purchased it, I usually look up information on it. Okay, I didn't know what it was. I just purchased it because it looked neat on the shelf and, you know, whatever. However, in this particular case, I'm going to have to claim ignorance because I legitimately have no information to work with. And the biggest reason for that is because this is not a Japanese toy in its origins. Made in China, blah, 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 blah. We're used to that. But not a toy that originates from China. That's kind of a new one for me. And this is not a bootleg. This is not a knockoff. This is not third party. This is an original toy that comes out of China, that was designed in China, that comes from a television series in China. This is China's answer to the Japanese Super Sentai series. And the reason that I have to claim ignorance is because there's so little information on the internet about this Chinese Super Sentai. I don't know what to call it. I know it has a proper name, it's just I don't know it. That tells you how ignorant I am about it. There's so little information for English-speaking tokusatsu fans that we don't really have much to work with. The example I'll give here is that I've been given the original Chinese lettering, and then you'll run it through Google Translate or freetranslation.com or, you know, one of those others. You'll run it through there and it spits out gibberish. So here it is, you've got these English-speaking tokusatsu fans kind of running around like chickens with their heads cut off because, like, they're trying to get as much information as they can. And the problem is that the fan base for Chinese Super Sentai, and like I said, there is a name for it, but I don't know what it is. The fan base is just developing. Those roots between China and the United States or Canada or England, those links have not been established. The fandom in China may be growing, but it hasn't migrated over here yet. There is a lot of English floating around right now about Space Deleter, and I'm caught up right in the middle of it as well. I know that's not a very satisfying answer, but unfortunately at this point it's the best I have to work with. Maybe after posting this review I'll be able to get some feedback through the comments section, and I'll be able to refine the names and do a couple of other things like that. But for the meantime, this is the best that I've got. Even though each of the individual mecha has its own unique name, collectively they are known as RCVs. And so first up is RCV number 1, which is totally not named after a special attack from G Gundam, the Rising Arrow, which is just a basic, simple, non-functional, well, you know, rocket engines, ground-to-orbit rocket ship. That's pretty much it. Big old connection point right there, and a similar looking one right there. And like I said, the Rising Arrow doesn't have any function to itself. It just simply exists. Ooh. More on that later. Now, I have it on good authority that mine came with a slight flaw. Now, mine only, okay? I've spoken with lots of other people. They have not had this problem. But mine seems to have a little gremlin in there. Turns out that I suspect that a tab, this may have happened during manufacturing, maybe shipping directly from the factory to the store where I bought it from. But regardless, it conked out one of the engines. This front left engine is not meant to shift around like that, because you can see the front right one does not move at all. So that little thing that's in there, that's just, it's not designed to do that. It's not supposed to do that, but on mine it does. Beyond that, it's just a nice looking rocket ship with the symbol for Mars sitting at the top and a pretty sweet looking Star Trek logo right there. Oh, Star Trek, whatever. Rising Arrow. Next up is RCV number 2, which is probably the only RCV that everybody absolutely agrees on what the name is, the Sky Transporter, which is not quite so obvious what it is at first, but it does have some really nice detailing all across the top here. Non-functional detailing, like there's a connection point here, and there's connection points here, and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, it's got some pretty decent detailing along it. Even down to a ton of headlights, and, get this, 2 different colors of transparent plastic. That's pretty rare. Yeah, red headlights, don't quite get it. They should have been yellow, they should have been blue, but I can live with it. It works. Why are you doing your 2 cents right now, Ava? Shouldn't be doing that. So like I said, this is definitely worth a second look here. Very nice detailing. I hope that's in focus. Yes, it is. And then underneath, we have some cylindrical wheels that spin quite nicely, just on the front and the back. And on the front here, we have some disc wheels. These wheels here are not functional, but you know, they kind of look nice. Got a little nice detailing underneath as well. Just decent little tractor treads. And the treads themselves, spoiler alert, this moves. Inside of the treads, nice, fair detailing on there. So that is the Sky Transporter. Now it does have a feature that you can use. First thing you do is you fold it up like this. And then you fold this here. Now this is a double hinge joint, so you can either fold it here. Oops. The other one takes a little more effort. So you can either bend it here, or you can bend it here. It's kind of up to you. It doesn't really matter. The point is you're going to make an L shape, and then you're going to put Rising Arrow, and it's just going to sit there. It doesn't actually snap into position. It just really sits there, or it just free floats there. It just rests on the top, and that's it. And this is, I don't know what this is called, but whoa, I'm going to lose my background. So yeah, you can do that. And that's it for the Sky Transporter. And last, but certainly not least, we have RCV number 3, the Dream Fighter, which is pink, which actually has pink on it, and some really, really nice solar panels, satellite, something or other. There are 2 ways this can be viewed. It can either be viewed as a jet fighter of some kind, because you can see the cockpit right there, kind of a bubblish cockpit, and then it has, you know, triple engines back there, and I think these also should be engines as well, I'm not certain. Or, the way it's depicted in the series is these fold down kind of like this. The toy actually can't quite do the transformation into satellite mode that it does in the show, because they use all CGI for the vehicles. But the wings here should be able to fold downwards along with the nose at the same time. And then it becomes its kind of satellite mode. So it just kind of does this nice little orbiting thing. There's a real fine texture along the back of the solar panels. I guess that's what they are. Ooh, don't look, don't look. Yeah, there's some, it's a bit hollow there. Can't really call this a landing pad, but I guess you kind of have to. Whatever. And again, nice little detailing on the back there. 2 out of focus. There we go. And that is it for the Dream Fighter. Yeah, Yeah, Space Deleter Pink wants to get in on the action. How do I get this on here? Does it stick up here? No. But I don't know. That kind of works. Oh, by the way, painting. That kind of works, but no, we're not doing that here. No, no, no. There is a way you can put them together. By the way, I forgot to mention a moment ago that on Sky Transporter, there's wheels on the back here, but there aren't any wheels here. So when you rest it on the flat surface, it'll actually tilt oh so slightly this direction. So you'll have some friction right here so that its gantry launch mode will not shift around as easily. It'll still have wheels under there, but friction allows it to hold in position. Anyways, just like this. These tabs here go into these slots back here. There's a little tab, sits right just behind the nose cone. It's going to fit into a little slot right there. It's not going to fit up there. It's going to fit down here. A little snap there. And then the tab actually, it doesn't snap into position. It just gently rests in place. So this isn't going to shift around side to side. You don't have to worry about that. It just sits there. But you also don't want to pick it up just by rising arrow. That's a no-no. It'll pop off right away. And then what you do is you take Dream Fighter, which doesn't have any tabs on the bottom, so unfortunate, but whatever. But there's a slot in the top of Rising Arrow here, and there's a real subtle slot sitting right back here. And you just set it on top like that. I don't know what this particular mode is called, but it is in the instructions. Therefore, it exists. And now we come to the main event. The bumper flips around 180 degrees, which is actually kind of impressive. And then the front half actually flips up 90 degrees to reveal a connection point right there. Oh, I already folded these up. Yes, ordinarily, whoa, okay. Ordinarily, these are in the downward position. You want to fold those up. You want to fold these all the way over. Now, keep this in mind. Do not try to snap the thing together by pushing down on the treads themselves, because the treads actually want to be extended before you get those snapped into position. Like that. And the reason for that is there's not enough room for the front of the thigh and these treads to occupy the same space. So these, and you'll see, it's resting at a slight angle here. So you want to make certain that those knees are, you're not pushing on the knees. You want to hang on to it from the sides or wherever. Don't press strictly on there. Fold up those. Open up the legs. Now keep this in mind. The hip joints snap not only to these slightly splayed positions, but also straight down. So you want to keep that in mind when you put Sky Transporter back together, that both sides are angled straight downwards. Because if you angle one but not the other, it's going to start putting stress on the joints and all the tabs and things like that. So that becomes a bit of an issue. Next up is Rising Arrow. The arms are set up with tabs on the inner sides, and it's set up so that you can only assemble it so that the symbols are both on the front side. They're both facing the same direction. It'll be boring gray plastic on the opposite side every time you put this together. Come on. And those just, snap apart easily enough. Now, for this one, if you're an adult, if you have big hands, this is going to be an issue. Now, for convenience, I wouldn't recommend using Dream Fighter for this all the time, but it's really the only point that I have to work with on this entire toy. So for me, it's convenient to get the shoulder joint out like that. Like I said, you can use your weapon of choice here, but for convenience, I use the Dream Fighter. Take the lower portion of Rising Arrow, stick it there. These shoulder joints are pretty tough, especially on mine on the right side. That's really tight. outside like that. I don't know if this alone is a mode that operates by itself without the Dreamfighter involved. I don't know for certain, but there's nothing to say that you can't. And while I'm on the region, I might as well show you this lovely head design that they have underneath here, which unfortunately gets covered up by Dreamfighter. But looks pretty snazzy. Head piping. And finally we get Dreamfighter involved because, well, it's going to finish things off. These two tabs here, or these two fins, are made of PVC, okay? They are not hinged, okay? What you want to do, how do I describe this? Okay. These two gray sections here are going to swing upwards at the same time that the nose is going to swing downwards. So we're going to get this kind of motion, okay? The reason these fins are made of PVC is not just for safety's sake. I don't know, it might be. But the reason for it is because these gray pieces here, actually it's a single chevron-shaped piece here for the nose, and then these things back here. But what you want to do is when you flip these down, you'll see they brush up against those fins right there. And the reason they're made of PVC is so that they can flex a little bit to get out of their way. I'm not quite certain why they did it that way, but they did. Anyways, you want to flip the nose all the way around 180 degrees, and it will snap into place. Snaps in top to either side of the head, on the kind of on the shoulder right there, either side of the collar. And then the solar panels are pegged into position ordinarily, but they will become friction free, or they are held with friction in place, so they're not going to snap down into this lower position. And you'll not want to hang on to it every single time here from just here, because you're going to put stress on there eventually. So make sure you hold on to it in different locations each time you do it. But anyways, you hold on down, and there you have Solar Saver. For me, Solar Saver very much evokes the Brave Saga mecha of Japanese anime, because it has shoulder armor, that shoulder and or chest armor that actually blocks articulation of the shoulders. That's actually not an issue with Solar Saver, because you'll notice as I'm rotating the arms every 45 degrees, the shoulder armor actually folds upwards a little bit. Now, unfortunately, you can't go above 90 degrees horizontal. You can't raise it above the horizontal position, because then, well, you'll actually force that upwards. But the fact that that shoulder armor can move out of the way is, well, that's actually pretty doggone impressive and really nice to have around. Solar Saver's head. Got a visor slash sunshades, very elaborate sunshades, with the eyes still very much poking out of there. A nice texture pattern underneath the transparent plastic on the chest. And it's a different pattern from the one that you find on the shoulders. Big blocky legs. Not that I really need to tell you this, but... Ooh, what's this? Oh, okay. Should I reshoot that? Nah. I don't think I need to. One little detail I forgot to mention, and this really isn't a big issue, just know that it's there. These rockets were designed, at least the ones on the back, were designed to bend backwards. Now, I saw a photograph from the TV series itself, and these rocket engines are actually supposed to fold back 90 degrees. But unfortunately, they just have this little bit of range of motion, and that's kind of it. So that's supposed to happen when Solar Saver is assembled, but for the sake of the toy, you don't have to worry about it. And really, you're going to be, the way you're going to be grabbing onto the torso, it doesn't really matter much at that point. I'm not quite certain if these are peg holes or screw holes right there. Oops. But the inner side of the hands... Oh yeah, by the way, the inner side of the arms has a little bit of a little bit of detailing in there. Now you'll notice I just did something pretty amazing right there. I'm not certain if this is by design or I'm not certain, but the arms can ratchet outwards an additional 45 degrees. Now, having, I'm just going to peg this up, having it bend forward 45 degrees and then outwards, technically you can do it, but there's not a whole heck of a lot of room in there, and I'm concerned that these pieces of plastic are going to start stressing over time. So I wouldn't recommend, when it's at a 45 degree angle this way, I wouldn't recommend folding the arm outward. So you're going to want to avoid that. But you can absolutely turn the arm 45 degrees outwards, or the shoulder 45 degrees outwards when it's horizontal or when it's vertical. That's actually a lot of articulation. That's actually pretty darn good articulation. Now, Solar Saver is also surprisingly responsible with its kibble. Here's the nose cone section of Rising Arrow. You can see there's a bunch of connection points and stuff sitting in there. A bunch of, what are those called, alligator clips or whatever it is in there. What you're going to do is the same clips that you use to attach the arms to the nose cone when it's in Rising Arrow. So you're going to take advantage of these. Now, the instructions say for the right arm you can only clip it into the right side. You can only clip it that way, but it ends up being off-center. Let's see. Ends up being off-center like this. I have found, however, there isn't really a big issue. You actually can center the arm so that it is centered on the spike, whatever this is called. I don't know what this is called, but it's a weapon, it's a spear, it's a spike, it's a shield. I highly doubt it, but it does snap enough. You know, it's a solid enough snap in there. It won't go anywhere without undue force. But it has a bonus feature built into it. Its arm a little more upwards. There's a line, seam line running down the middle, because you can open this up to reveal some sort of cool good looking blaster assembly thing, which has its own inner detailings in there. The tip here is made of a rather hard PVC. It's almost ABS. I think it's ABS right here. It's probably ABS, so don't transflex it. However, the very tip here is PVC. And so that is it for Solar Saver. Okay, this is like the 6th take, and I've only recorded like 1.5 minutes 7 times, so this is like the 8th take now. I want to talk about Solar Saver, but in order to talk about that, I have to talk about things beyond just the toy that you see represented here. I need to talk about combining robot toys and materials and gimmicks and basically my opinions of what is currently going wrong with Super Sentai that I see going right in this fledgling imitation that came out of China. And it's difficult for me to kind of narrow the focus of this commentary because obviously I want to save material for other reviews later on, and yes, there will be other reviews later on. At least from Space Deleter there will be. Okay. Alright, I'll talk about something I usually don't talk about. Materials. The materials on this are not... This and other toys from Space Deleter is definitely shows a curve in evolution of toy design originating from China. Now, when you think of China, you think made in China but designed by a foreign company. You know, for Super Sentai, the company that designs the toys and what the Rangers look like and blah, 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 those come from Plex. Those come from Bandai. Those come from Toei. You know, they all kind of collaborate together. And then, you know, they come up with their toy designs. But it's 9 times out of 10, it's a Chinese company that manufactures them under the name of Bandai, and then they ship it out. But I have to talk about this toy as if it comes from China, because not just that it was manufactured in China, not just that it shipped from China, but it was designed in China. And that to me is one of the key reasons why I purchased this toy. Solar Saver represents just the first step in, as far as we can tell, a 3, possibly 4-step combining robot system for Space Deleter. And in order to get to this point, there was a previous series that came out. It was called Giant Saver, which is already reviewed on CollectionDX.com, not by me. You'll have to go there and look for it. And it is pretty darn amazing, within a 2-year period, to see something that originally started out as, for lack of a better word, a Megazord when you put all the components together. It was made of like 9 or 10 different mecha, and it was all really short like this. And you could tell, even then, that the designers at Audley, the company that manufactured and designed these toys, that they were intentionally trying to move away from the reputation of China producing nothing but bootlegs and third parties and knockoffs. You could tell with the Giant Saver material that's where they're trying to go. You could still see echoes of it. The plastic was not quite up to snuff of some of the more famous Asian companies like Bandai, for example. You know, they're not quite there, but they were on their way. There was good integrity to the materials. You could squeeze on one of the arms, and it wouldn't just crush in your hand. You know, it actually had good engineering behind it. But you could also tell there were things like wacky colors, and the decorations are just kind of out there. And really, when you looked at I don't know the names of the mecha, but that final Giant Saver Ultimate combination thing, it was starting to show that, yeah, they can't really separate from their roots. Or rather, China, Audley, I'll be more specific, Audley couldn't quite separate from they're attempting to manufacture these things on their own as opposed to leaning on somebody else's design. You could tell. But the tokusatsu fans, whether they're in Japan or English-speaking nations, they decided to give Giant Saver a shot. And I don't know how Great Saver was received in China, just because, you know, I barely even know the name of these things, let alone the name of this series or how well they're received in China. I don't know. But apparently it was enough, because in 2014 they came up with this. And this is a completely, even this alone, from 2013 when they made Giant Saver to 2014 when they made this, is a huge leap, because the original one only stood from here to here, roughly. From foot to waist was about as big as the previous one was, I think. It's hard to tell scale. But anyways, this is a complete change. This moves away. It keeps the combining factor involved, but the materials, and this is a long route that I'm taking here, but the materials, the engineering that goes into this is superb. Absolutely superb. Something like that. I don't know why they're doing it. They're putting PVC in places that might break. You know, there's a little PVC on the fin on top here. They're getting a little more concerned about the points of things actually hurting kids. Because much as we complain about safety, yes, even we get concerned about safety once in a while. So you can see this is actually hollow right here. This point right here is actually hollow PVC. So they get concerned about materials. This is very strong. This is the kind of plastic. Now, let's see, what's a good example? Turn it around, I guess, here. The gray plastic that they're using is very much, let's see, I'm trying to focus it, but I can't. I guess I gotta go way out here. I don't know. The gray plastic that they're, oh, okay, here we go. Underneath the rocket, or the rising arrow, you can kind of tell it's that kind of sort of cheap gray plastic that we've come to associate with trying to make something look metallic, but at the same time not having a good quality plastic to work with. So it's kind of like they made a thicker version of that low quality ABS that's kind of associated with bootlegs and knockoffs and on and on and on. But in this case, they've put enough thought and engineering into it that the gray plastic, even though it has a kind of warbling texture to it or whatever it is, it's flat, it's not grainy, it's not oily, it's not anything like that, and yet it's solid. This won't, I would dare to say that this is Bandai quality plastic that's on here right now. That's how confident I am in saying that. This is competition for Bandai. Well, not really competition necessarily, but it's of a grade that is very similar to what Bandai has been doing, what I would associate with Bandai of Japan. Bandai of America, that's a different issue, but I'll leave that one alone. The other thing that impresses me is how well things fit together. The ratcheting joints are not too tight or too loose. Well, this right arm, I think this particular joint, and it doesn't have to do with Rising Arrow's shoulder connection point. It actually has to do with the ratcheting peg that you stick in there. That's actually the part that does the ratcheting. That definitely is a really tight ratchet. That is a bit of an issue. I can now, to be fair, there are tolerance issues, the tightness of that joint there. Not even a week after I got this joint became really loose, as opposed to this one over here, which still has some friction in it. But this joint over here became loose really quickly. It sags down really easily now. There's almost no friction in this particular joint here. It's not supposed to flex like that, but it is. The peg, it's not really essential that this pegs together, because it's not really dependent. But the peg that holds this rocket spear spike thingy together, the friction got lost on it fairly quickly, so it will open up easily, but it's not gonna, it's not a spring-loaded weapon, okay? You have to manually open and close it. But it's a slight irritation that the separation will pop open once in a while. The knee joints, for example, you have to push kind of hard to get them to retract, but pulling them out is very, very easy. So, but on the other hand, that's kind of good, because you don't want the legs to, or you don't want the knees to collapse back in when it's in robot mode. So you kind of want it to lock into that outer position really well. But those are minor, folks, minor engineering quality control things. This is only their second attempt at a combining giant robot toy. And this thing stands almost 13 inches tall, okay? And it very much has, it is unquestionably aimed at Super Sentai. Super Sentai is the competition for this. That is specifically what Audley is aiming for. And to their credit, second time around, they did it. They made it work. Do I have any bones about it? Not, other than the little tolerance issues. No. Materials are fine. Even the paint applications are really good. There's really, not even on the face, there aren't any sloppy paint applications. Not on mine, and I haven't heard big complaints from anybody regarding their copy of the Solar Saver. Like the tiniest little goof-ups or whatever it is, you can ignore those, because, let's be honest, even a higher quality, older company like Bandai with their high standards, oh, there it is right there, it's split apart, even with their standards, they too goof up once in a while. You'll see reviewers pick the hell out of them. In this case, this is up to the exact same standards. Exactly the same. That is why it's impressive. That is why I like it. It's because even though this company is doing this on their own, and they're aiming for this is a shot across the bow at Super Sentai. No doubts there. But they actually have the ability to back up their claim. They did it. I didn't even know about this until other Super Sentai and Tokusatsu reviewers started covering it, and they were impressed with it. Now I looked into it, it's like, oh, wow, this actually is really good. But it comes from China. It's not Super Sentai, it looks like Super Sentai, it's pretending to be Super Sentai, it's a ripoff, it's a knockoff. Well, imitation is the best form of flattery, although all those bootleggers and knockoff companies would strongly disagree with that position. But that being said, this is a really darn good toy. It's not going to fall apart on you easily. It's really not. And by the way, I forgot to mention earlier, there's PVC on these little fins on the weapon here of Rising Arrow. Regardless of the translation barrier, the communications barrier that will eventually be broken, and we'll be able to understand what these things are called and what they do and blah, blah, blah. Despite that, this is an excellent little toy, and I'm getting a kick out of it. I really am. I like it. The vehicle mode, like Rising Arrow, is kind of boring. You know, okay, whatever. Dream Fighter is, I can't really say on the fragile side because it's really not. I mean, loss of friction here, okay, whatever. I would have engineered these fins to be solid, maybe have an actual dedicated hinge so that these could bend. That's what I would have done there, but, you know, then again, I'm not a toy engineer. I don't quite know what happened to this one little rocket motor. That's really the only thing that's busted on mine, right there. That little, and you can hear the piece rattling around on the inside. Maybe someday I'll unscrew it, take it apart, and see if I can fix it. But I'm really excited. Like, I know nothing about Space Deleter, but I'm really excited about what this toy line is going. I'm enjoying it. I really am. And so, as unusual as the origins as this toy is, and I'll leave it at that so that I can, like I said, I'm intentionally holding back some of my discussion here, saving it for other reviews. For as odd as the origins of this place is, in terms of stuff that I collect, I'm putting my recommendations into it. Like, this is not a sponsored toy. The company I got it from is not one of the regulars in CollectionDX. I bought this myself from a bootleg company, and I hear tell there's a guy who did an unboxing who might have mentioned the name of the company where it came from. You might want to go look over on his channel. He might be able to give you the information if you ask him real nicely. But whatever route you take to purchase this thing, I strongly recommend getting the Solar Saver. At least the full saver. Yeah, be advised though, they actually made a smaller, was it 3.5, 4-inch action figure version as well. So be careful because I would call this deluxe just out of habit, but they're not going to call it deluxe. As far as I'm aware, it's not called deluxe Solar Saver. So I hesitate to say deluxe Solar Saver, but for lack of a better term, I'm going to call it the deluxe Solar Saver. But just be advised that whenever you try to get a Solar Saver, and then that name seems to be consistent, Solar Saver. That's consistent. Just make sure you look out and make certain that it can transform, because there is a version out there where it can swap out the limbs, but it's only 3.5, 4 inches tall. So be careful of that when you're looking around for this, because Audley is also making smaller action figure versions of this. And so with that kind of unfocused rambling, haven't thought it through beforehand, but usually I don't anyways, commentary taken care of, this is AV Unit 4A for CollectionDX.com, signing off.